desert, bay, and creek. So, what do you say we get started? And let's talk about the first stop, which will be St. Augustine. So, might have to go somewhere a little quieter to do this. Nice and sunny, and all of a sudden it's getting cloudy, and I think we're headed for a nor'easter. Well, anyway, getting back to the eastern coast of the United States, in order: Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. So, what do you say we go ahead and start the trip? Now, it started off a little bit bumpy, and I mean that literally, because a nor'easter coming from the north was coming southbound towards us, and we were headed north, right into it. The plan was to get to St. Augustine before the nor'easter did. Now, what's a nor'easter, you may ask? Well, a nor'easter, which is also called a northeaster, is a horizontal length extratropical cyclone in the western North Atlantic Ocean, which measures 620 miles long or longer. And as we enter the open ocean, we began getting rain and waves up to like 6 feet swells, we're guessing. It was like being inside a car that's going through a car wash. Luckily, the yacht has radar and navigational equipment that kept us on our course. But it was quite the start, which wouldn't have been all that bad if it not had been for lightning. And Sheriff Stephen J., he doesn't like lightning. So the boat's being tossed around, up and down, and luckily we have stabilizers on this boat, so this way wasn't so bad, but it was this way, forward and backward. But the alarms are going off, everything was checked out, the smoke alarm was really loud, it was one of them. And nothing could be found wrong with the boat. But the alarms wouldn't go off. So they did the next best thing to solve that problem. They disconnected them. True story, they did. And then we just sped on our way. Full speed ahead, Captain. Alarms are off. So that nor'easter, though it's going southbound towards us, is also going eastbound away from us. So I don't know if we're going to hit any more of it on the trip or not. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Hopefully we won't. But if we do, I will say it's going to make for quite the voyage, won't it? And we all know what a voyage is. It's a lettership word of interest. Voyage. V-O-Y-A-G-E. Voyage. Meaning a long journey involving traveling by sea or in space. Voyage. And that's what we're doing. We're on the sea. And we're on a long trip or, journey. Anyway, we're on a voyage. But let's talk about St. Augustine. St. Augustine was founded September 8th, 1565 by Spanish Admiral Pedro Menendez de Aviles, Florida's first governor. He named the settlement San Augustine, as his ships bearing settlers, troops, and supplies from Spain had first sighted land in Florida 11 days earlier on August 28th, which is the feast day of St. Augustine. The city served as the capital of Spanish Florida for over 200 years. It was designated as the capital of British East Florida when the colony was established in 1763. Great Britain returned Florida to Spain in 1783. It must have been the mosquitoes, I don't know. Anyway, the United States acquired Florida from Spain in 1819, and St. Augustine was designated the capital of the Florida Territory in 1821. But what I find interesting in St. Augustine is that it's rich in pirate history. That's right, you can find pirates here, and was also attacked by pirates as well. Now, if we had more time, I would have loved to have gone on one of the pirate tours. And everybody likes pirates, right? we're leaving St. Augustine. Next stop, Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah, and the weather's really cleared up today. Sun is out and everything's looking pretty good today. Yeah, and I'm gonna have plenty of time to enjoy it as well because it's gonna take us 8 hours to get to Charleston. Finally, we're approaching the Charleston Marina, and the houses on the shoreline have that beautiful southern architecture that I've seen in the history books. Charleston is the seat of Charleston County, which was founded in 1670. It is the oldest and second largest city in South Carolina. Originally located on the west bank of the Ashley River, known as Albemarle Point, the city moved to its present location on Oyster Point in 1680. Now, Charleston was captured, then recaptured in the Civil War, but it didn't suffer very much property damage. And it was the first city in the U.S. to pass a historical preservation ordinance. And because of that, much of the beautiful architecture that you see today has been preserved for future generations to see and enjoy. Charleston is also known as the Holy City due to the numerous church steeples, which dot the city's low-rise skyline, and the fact that it was one of the few places in the original 13 colonies to provide religious tolerance to the French Huguenots and to Jews. Well, it's 6 a.m. again, and we're getting ready to leave Charleston. But we couldn't happen to notice these tiny little red fish that surrounded the boat, in the back, on the sides, they're everywhere. I'm sure we're not going to hurt them when we leave here. I have no idea what these fish are, except they're probably food for bigger fish. Anyway, very interesting encounter. Now it's time to continue to our next destination, Norfolk, Virginia. The port of Moorhead City. There's been a little change. So much for my list. Well, we're not going to Norfolk after all, but we're headed to the port of Moorhead City, North Carolina, which is closer. Apparently, the Noreaster is rearing its ugly head again, so our captain decided not to travel as far north as Norfolk, Virginia, and I can see we are getting a little bit of rain. Nothing like we had, at North Palm Beach when we left there, but yeah, it's coming. You know the problem with going to Moorhead City, though? That port is really small, and everything closes at 6 p.m. Well, we're finally here at Moorhead City. It's 5:45 p.m. I told you everything closes at 6. However, I heard through the grapevine that there is one restaurant open, so apparently we're going to take advantage of that. Why, you may ask? I don't know, because we stocked this yacht up with food. We have all kinds of food on this yacht, so why are we going out to eat at a restaurant? I don't know, but, I'm not the boss. I just do what I'm told in this situation. But before we go eat, though, I'd like to share some history with you regarding Moorhead City. Now, Moorhead City was founded in the 1850s when a group of investors formed and incorporated a land development project known as the Shepherd Point Land Company. Now, the company purchased 600 acres of land on the eastern tip of the peninsula bordering the Newport River, known then as Shepherd's Point, which is the present location of Moorhead City. Now, the Shepherd Point Land Company was established to construct a deep water port to allow an additional access point for North Carolina timber products. There's only one at the time. It was located at Wilmington, which was overwhelmed with all the timber products that was coming into it. So they really needed another port. Now, this project was completed on April 29, 1858. North Carolina Governor John Motley Moorhead at the time, for whom the city of Moorhead City is named, was a major member of the Shepherd Point Land Company investment group. The town of Moorhead City was laid out using a grid plan, whereby city blocks were equally laid out with each block consisting of 16 equally divided lots. The city block stretched from 1st Street to 15th Street, incorporating a system of alleys forming an H shape that enabled businesses and residential homes to be served from the alleys behind them. It was during the 1880s and 1890s that fishermen settled in the area between 10th and 15th Streets, calling it the Promised Land. These fishermen became the center of the fishing industry that has remained an important part of the town's economy. Yeah, now this is a nice little port and a nice little town, but rolling up the streets at 6 p.m. is a little early, even for me. So, I'll be bored later on, and it's going to be early, which means I'm going to go to sleep earlier, but that's okay, because I have to be up at 6 a.m. again when we leave here and we embark upon our next destination, which is Annapolis, Maryland. After another early morning start and long day at sea, I've noticed that the wake behind the boat is churning up brown water. Now, why is that happening? I hope it's not something bad. You know, I hope we're not like in too shallow of water or something and the bottom is stirring up or something. But then if we were in too shallow of water, an alarm would go off and warn us. Oh, that's right. We disconnected the alarms. Well, I didn't do it. Somebody else did it. Yeah, so, well, anyway, I'm sure we'll be safe as we head towards Annapolis, Maryland. I hope. We are now entering Annapolis, which is the capital of Maryland, which was originally called Providence when settled by the Puritans. It was later called Anne Arundel's Town, after the wife of Lord Baltimore, who owned the colony. It wasn't until a royal governor, Sir Francis Nicholson, moved the Maryland capital from St. Mary's City to this present coastal location that the small seaport received its present name. Sir Francis chose to honor Princess Anne, heir to the throne. In 1708, as queen, her colonial namesake officially became the city's name. Her royal badge, that has a crown over the entwined thistle of Scotland and the Tudor rose of England, is on the Annapolis flag. Annapolis is also the home of St. John's College, founded in 1696, and the United States Naval Academy, established in 1845, which is adjacent to the city limits. It was also the home to a VLF transmitter called NSS Annapolis, which was used by the United States Navy to communicate with its Atlantic submarine fleet. Well, we're on our way to New York Harbor, and it's raining pretty hard. I guess you could say it's raining cats and dogs. And those windshield wipers in the front there, they're having a hard time keeping up with it. Like being in a car wash, you know? Yeah, pretty bad. See, the thing is, I like to see where I'm going. Well, we made it. We are entering New York Harbor, home of the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, and the Staten Island Ferry, just to name a few of the historical places and things here. Now let's talk the Statue of Liberty. In 1886, the people of France gave the Statue of Liberty to the people of the United States as a centennial gift in recognition of the friendship established during the American Revolution and the abolishing of slavery. It was originally the brainchild of poet and anti-slavery activist Edouard de La Boulaye, and was sculpted by a young French sculptor, Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. In 1874, fundraising for the statue began in France. It was agreed that the United States would pay for the statue's pedestal. So in 1877, Congress authorized the site where the statue would be placed, and private funding began for pedestal construction. In 1881, the statue assembly began in Paris and was completed in 1884. In 1885, it was dismantled and shipped to New York as Joseph Pulitzer begins another nationwide fundraising effort for the pedestal. In 1886, the statue is reassembled and dedicated. Now let's talk Ellis Island. Ellis Island is a historical site that opened in 1892 as an immigration station, a purpose it served for more than 60 years, until it closed in 1954. Located at the mouth of the Hudson River between New York and New Jersey, Ellis Island saw millions of newly arrived immigrants pass through its doors. It has been estimated that close to 40% of all current U.S. citizens can trace at least one of their ancestors to Ellis Island. The Staten Island Ferry originated in 1817 when the Richmond Turnpike Company started a steamboat service from Manhattan to Staten Island. Cornelius Vanderbilt bought the Richmond Turnpike Company in 1838, and it was merged with two competitors in 1853. The combined company was in turn sold to the Staten Island Railroad Company in 1864. Now, the Staten Island Ferry was then sold to the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad in 1884, and the city of New York assumed control of the ferry in 1905. By 1967, the Staten Island to Manhattan Ferry was the only commuter ferry within the entire city and still runs today. So we're getting ready to dock. Then we're going to go grab a bite to eat and then settle down for the night. And of course, when we get a bite to eat, we're going to another restaurant. But I got to tell you, by the end of this trip, there's going to be a lot of leftover food. It's a beautiful morning as we leave New York Harbor. But where are we going? Well, there's been another change. We're headed to Newport, Rhode Island, instead of stopping at one of the ports in Buzzards Bay. Newport was founded in 1639 on Aquinic Island, which was called Rhode Island at the time. It grew to be the largest of the four original settlements, which became the colony of Rhode Island, which also included Providence plantations and Shawwomen. Many of the first colonists in Newport became Baptists, and the Second Baptist Congregation in Rhode Island was formed in 1640 under the leadership of John Clark. In 1658, a group of Jews were welcomed to settle in Newport. They were fleeing the Inquisition in Spain and Portugal, but had not been permitted to settle elsewhere. The Newport congregation is now referred to as Congregation Jesuit Israel, and is the second oldest Jewish congregation in the United States. It meets in Touro Synagogue, which is the oldest synagogue in the United States. Newport is also known as a New England summer resort and is famous for its historic mansions and its rich sailing history. It was the location of the first U.S. Open tournaments in both tennis and golf, as well as every challenge to the America's Cup between 1930 and 1983. It is also the home of South Regina University and Naval Station Newport, which houses the United States Naval War College, the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, and an important Navy training center. It was a major 18th century port city and also contains a high number of buildings from the colonial era. Now, once again about the weather. And you know, when we've been at the docks, the weather hasn't been too bad. A little bit of rain here and there. But every time we go out to sea, the journey gets a little nasty with the Noreaster coming down upon us. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Lots of rain coming down all around us. The back of the yacht has a drain that can't keep up with the volume of water accumulating around it. But we proceed northward, with Rhode Island on one side of us and Connecticut on the other. But wait, we have another change. Now, there are a lot of marinas that span the 28-mile long, 8 miles wide Buzzards Bay. So we're going to pass all those, go a little further up north, and we're going to dock at the Plymouth Marina, located at the Plymouth Harbor, which is in Plymouth, Massachusetts. So what is the historic significance with Plymouth? Well, let's see. Does Indians bring anything to mind? How about the Mayflower? Or that 4-day holiday weekend called Thanksgiving? Yep, that's Plymouth. Now, Plymouth played a very important role in American colonial history. It was the final landing site of the first voyage of the Mayflower and the location of the original settlement of the Plymouth colony. Plymouth was established in December 1620 by separatist Puritans who had broken away from the Church of England. Today, these settlers are much better known as the Pilgrims. The Mayflower, which brought them from England to Plymouth, first anchored in the harbor of Provincetown, Massachusetts on November 11, 1620. The ship was headed for the mouth of the Hudson River, but it did not go beyond Cape Cod. The Pilgrim settlers realized that they did not have a patent to settle in the region, so they signed the Mayflower Compact prior to disembarking. They explored various parts of Cape Cod and eventually sought a suitable location for a permanent settlement in Cape Cod Bay. They discovered the sheltered waters of Plymouth Harbor on December 17th, and the protected bay led to a site for the new settlement after 3 days of surveying. It is said that after they disembarked from the Mayflower and they made it to land, that they set foot on the Plymouth Rock. There is no evidence to back that up. But they did name the settlement Plymouth, and they spelled it P-L-I-M-O-U-T-H, Plymouth, sometimes spelled P-L-I-M-O-T-H, Plymouth, which was named after a major port city in Devon, England, where the Mayflower originally started. The first direct contact with a Native American was made in March 1621, and soon after, Chief Massasoit paid a visit to the settlement. After an exchange of greetings and gifts, the two peoples signed a peace treaty. The treaty stated that if a Wampanoag broke the law, he would be taken to Plymouth and the colonists would determine punishment. And if a colonist broke the law, he would be given to the Wampanoag tribe and they would determine punishment. And personally, if I was a colonist, I'd be a good boy. At any rate, this treaty lasted for over 50 years. Well, today is the last day of our journey and one last change. You see, Plymouth didn't have fuel. So we're going to have to make a stop at the Boston Harbor in Massachusetts to fuel up, and the yacht needs water as well. And did I mention, as we leave Plymouth, that Plymouth is bordered by Cape Cod? Probably not. So as we mosey on out of here towards Boston, we're headed through the Cape to the southern entrance of the Cape Cod Canal. Now, Cape Cod is a geographic cape extending into the Atlantic Ocean from the southeastern corner of mainland Massachusetts in the northeastern United States, and extends from Provincetown in the northeast to Woods Hole in the southwest. Plymouth borders it to the northwest. Since 1914, most of Cape Cod has been separated from the mainland by the Cape Cod Canal. The canal cuts 7 miles roughly across the base of the peninsula through small portions of the Cape Cod towns of Bourne and Sandwich, which lie on the mainland side of the canal. And there it is, the southern entrance to the Cape Cod Canal. The Cape Cod Canal is an artificial waterway in the U.S. state of Massachusetts, connecting Cape Cod Bay in the north to Buzzards Bay in the south, and is part of the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway. The approximately 7-mile-long canal goes through the narrow neck of land joining Cape Cod to the state's mainland. Most of its length follows tidal rivers that were widened to 480 feet and deepened to 32 feet, which saves 135 miles off the journey around the cape. The canal has gates at each end of it, and as dolphins and the endangered North Atlantic whales pass through it from time to time. If a whale is seen inside the canal, then the canal is closed, and everybody has to make that 135-mile trip around the cape to get to the other side. But that's not the case today. But we're going through it now, and it's pretty cool, and the waters are nice and calm. Wow, this is a nice little trip to the canal here, but everything must end. Yeah, I can see the northern end of the canal coming up. We're going to be exiting. The ocean looks a little bumpy. Wow. So we got all these tidal waters nice and calm, and now we're going to be in for a little bumpy ride coming up here. So everybody hold on to your hats. Here we go. Whoa. Well, there goes everything off the kitchen counter. I'm not worried too much about the toaster oven and the butter and the sugar and that stuff. Or the glasses. I think some broke. I'm not sure. It sounds like it. But I am worried about one thing. The coffee pot. I hope that made it. Whoa. It's not even noon yet, and we're entering Boston Harbor. And not a minute too soon, I gotta say. It's nice and calm here, and it's rich in American history. In 1630, Puritan colonists from England founded Boston, which quickly became the political, commercial, financial, religious, and educational center of the New England region. The American Revolution began in Boston because of high taxes which the king imposed upon them. The Stamp Act of 1765 was the first internal tax levied directly on American colonists by the British Parliament. The act, which imposed a tax on all paper documents in the colonies, came 2 years after the British Empire won the 7 Years' War with France, which lasted from 1756 to 1763, and it also left the British in deep debt. The conflict began when the British sought to expand into territory claimed by the French in North America. The British looked at the war as protecting the colonists, so after defeating the French, they figured the colonists should help pay for the conflict. The colonists, on the other hand, didn't have any representation in the British Parliament to argue against the tax. So when tea was taxed, enough was enough, and American colonists, frustrated and angry at Britain for imposing taxation without representation, dumped 342 chests of tea imported by the British East India Company into the harbor, which is famously known as the Boston Tea Party. Now that we're all fueled up, we're leaving Boston Harbor and we're underway to our final destination, Freeport, Maine. And I noticed that the weather's much better, the waves are a lot smaller, and we're going to be there before you know it. Our trip's coming to an end, and we are entering the harbor of Freeport, Maine. And what's Maine known for? Well, lobsters and blueberries, that's for sure. And Maine is also known because of how many islands it has. It has over 3,100 islands. Of course, anything sticking out of the water they consider an island, so, you know. But that's what Maine is known for, islands as well. But what is Freeport, Maine known for? Well, Freeport, Maine is the home of LL Bean. LL Bean was founded in 1912 by its namesake, hunter and fisherman, Leon Wood Bean, in Freeport, Maine. The company began as a one-room operation, selling a single product, the Maine hunting shoe, also known as duck boots, and later as bean boots. Bean had developed a waterproof boot, which is a combination of lightweight leather uppers and rubber bottoms that he sold to hunters. He obtained a list of non-resident Maine hunting license holders, prepared a descriptive mail-order circular, set up a shop in his brother's basement in Freeport, and started a nationwide mail-order business. By 1912, he was selling the Bean boot through a 4-page mail-order catalog, and the boot remains a staple of the company's outdoor image to this day. Now, defects in the initial design led to 90% of the original production run being returned, but Bean honored his money-back guarantee. He fixed the defect and continued to sell them. And I have a pair of them right here. Just by chance, this is it, the Bean boot. Now you see up here you got leather, you know, I got the leather going on, and this is rubber down here, rubber waterproof right here. And there it is, the Bean boot. Not a bad trip, very educational, it was fun, and I was lucky to do it with a group of great people. So, now I guess I gotta go because that trip kind of tuckered me out. And it's time for my nap. But I want to thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to the next time we all get together on the Children's Corner. Must be a pillow around here somewhere.